Hey folks, this is Abel James, and thanks so much for joining us on this special episode of the show. Why do so many famous, seemingly successful musicians wind up completely broke? In this bonus series, I'm interviewing remarkable musicians who are using cutting-edge podcasting technology to reinvent and reimagine the music industry. And the time is nearly upon us. I'm thrilled and honored to be playing the opening set live at Austin's legendary home of the blues, Antone's Nightclub, on December 16th, and I hope you can join us. I'll be premiering a brand new original tune on acoustic guitar, then playing Voodoo Queen with a band, and rocking out on electric guitar and singing with SOB and the Dangs. We'll be sharing the stage with 5 artists and bands: our friends Suzanne Santo, Ainsley Costello, Henry Invisible, the Austin legend, FM Rodeo, and surprise guests. And these special podcast episodes with fellow performing artists are going to be free of ads with no sponsors. So if you like what you're hearing, you can support this show by sending a boost or a boostagram to this podcast using a modern podcasting app like Fountain. And if you want to create a better future for music and podcasting and help be part of this innovation, here's your challenge. Download a modern podcasting 2.0 app like the Fountain FM app and learn how to send a boost or a boostagram to an artist or a podcaster that you dig. And through the magic of modern podcasting technology, you can actually send a small micropayment to podcasters and musical artists through the Lightning Network. Sounds complicated, sounds hard. It's actually really easy. And automatically, that payment can be distributed to the right party. So if there are multiple people in the band, or if the host of a podcast wants to split it with a musician whose music they're playing or they're interviewing, you can have that all automated with no one in the middle. You can have a direct relationship between listener and creator, and also creator and creator. And so this is really exciting. It's a very incredible time to be, especially in Austin, Texas, where the worlds of music and technology often meet. So I'm just thrilled about this event coming up in downtown Austin, Texas, the Sats by Southwest Independent Music Summit at the Bitcoin Commons on December 15th. And then, of course, we have the concert at Antone's for Adam Curry's Boostergram Ball Live on December 16th. Make sure to join us for the live stream or in person. You can go to abeljames.com and sign up for the newsletter for more details. I'll be sending out all of the live stream information. You can also visit satsbysw.com for more information about the 2-day event. All right, today we're here with Suzanne Santo, singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist. In this episode, you'll hear the surprising and tragic truth about big contracts in the music industry, how and why musicians lose creative control over their art and their identities, how to balance a career as a musician with being a mother, why deleting all of your social media accounts is awesome, and much more. And be sure to listen until the end of this interview to hear Suzanne's original track, Worried. Let's go hang out with Suzanne. All right, folks, we're here with multi-talented actress, singer-songwriter, and musician Suzanne Santo. She's toured with some of the biggest acts in the world, including HoneyHoney, Butch Walker, and Hozier. Suzanne is also one of the featured artists playing at Antone's for Adam Curry's Boostergram Ball, and we're all stoked. Thanks so much for joining us, Suzanne.
Thanks, Abel. Damn, I don't get the actress card very often, but it's true, and that's fun to remember the good old days. Or I don't think they were that good. Just the old days.
The old days. Indeed, it was different back then. But the point is that you're multi-talented, not just in the worlds of acting and your other experience, but specifically with music. You also play a whole bunch of different instruments, and you act in kind of a lead role, playing solo very well as a supporting one. So I would love to talk about that a little bit. But before we do, let's just have you give a quick recap of your life so far. Not that that's easy to do, but what's your origin story, and specifically, how did you get to the world of music, rocking out so hard with some of the biggest acts in the world?
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you. I'm just going to take that little boost. It feels nice to hear those things. I don't often think of myself in that way. So thank you. Well, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, the Cleveland, as they call it. I was a young model at 16, and I moved to New York City, where I worked for a few years and started acting, which brought me to Los Angeles. And I realized pretty early on that acting is both industries are pretty brutal, but as much as I loved it, which I did love it, I music was always calling. I was always singing, and started playing violin when I was 11, and played in orchestra and always loved that. Um and I understood the value of music when I was younger because I got a small scholarship to my Catholic high school, and that was such a big deal, for my parents to help pay for tuition. And I just kind of remember like just understanding like, oh, there's something here, it's not just like for fun and a hobby. And and so when I got to Los Angeles, it was very lonely for a couple years. I think in a lot of cities, but LA in particular, if you're like a Midwesterner with Midwestern values, it's pretty hard to fit in there. So I didn't really find like my good friends for a while. And so I started writing the saddest songs you've ever heard, and playing open mics and things. And that kind of progressed pretty quickly for me, and like was sort of getting like record label attention pretty early on and things like that. And um I formed my band HoneyHoney a long ass time ago. Can we swear on this? I should probably.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I have a potty mouth, but I also have children now, and I have to figure out how to deal with that.
Right.
So
Feel free to let her rip.
so anyway, music, just kind of like took off in the way that you sort of like follow the wind a little bit. And I mean, it still surprises me, to be honest with you. Like, um I've had a lot of near misses, like close to the thing and it never really happened, or like I got to do cool stuff. But I guess I would say like my pinnacle of uh I don't really like the word success because it gets confusing, because I'm not really sure what that means. The most success I've had is getting married and having children. That's to me is like the mega, to be honest with you. But in terms of my work and my art and music, I guess the biggest boon was that was started in 2017, was when I got to like have a sustainable living. And it's really hard, as you know, like, but the thing that's really interesting is now I'm like, I heard this once from a Spotify representative in the way that they talk about the industry, but I'm what they refer to as a torso artist. Like,
Okay.
I'm not at the top and I'm not at the bottom. I'm not going to use anatomy to kind of continue that metaphor
Right.
because it could get a little weird, but I'm somewhere near the belly button, I think, or upper clavicle.
Could be worse, yeah.
Depends on who you ask. If you ask my mom, she'd be like, "You're right up there at the neck." But, but you know, like, so, I like, I played in Butch Walker's band, and then he produced a record for me, and that was a huge deal. Um, to get to meet somebody like that who I really admired and learned a lot from. Like, I think Butch really gave me a lot of confidence in kind of getting away from my identity in HoneyHoney, and having the confidence to carry shows by myself and things that were, it sounds silly in retrospect, but at the time, when you sort of get um, sort of stuck in a idea of yourself, you sometimes it's harder to get out of.
Mhm.
But I worked with Butch, and I learned a lot from him as a performer, which was really cool, because he's such a fun person to watch play. Like, just the abandon and freedom that he plays with is very unique. And so, from these experiences, I got to kind of keep growing, and eventually, like, like, not have a side job and things like that, which was really cool. But again, like, a very difficult life, especially for a woman approaching her mid 30s at the time, and like wanting a family and wanting a partner and a husband. And, I'm giving you the soup to nuts story because you asked.
This is great.
But, in 2020, when everything stopped, I had a record that was coming out that I had to postpone, obviously. I was supposed to open for Mavis Staples in Europe,
Wow.
among some other really cool things I was very excited about. But, everybody had their experiences then, and mine was really hard in the sense that I was 35 at the time, and it hit me like a train that like I'm getting older, and I think I missed the window, and it was super painful. And you know, like it's a weird lifestyle touring, and like touring and never being around, and I think too, like people also have a certain idea about musicians being a certain way. Um, but I'm pretty like in like the grand scheme of like the way people can be, whether it's like lots of alcohol and drugs, or like I'm pretty tame.
Yeah.
But I also really value my craft. Like I want to do a good job. So if you're a singer, you can't get all fucked up at your shows, etc. Like, if people pay money to come see me, I want to give them a good show. So, I have a good relationship with all that stuff. Like I just thank God like never had problems with substances or alcohol, or, I'm just here for the music. But, to that end, like I realized that the things I wanted weren't really compatible with a touring musician as a woman,
Mhm.
and it's really hard to connect with the kind of person that I wanted. And so that year I spent like kind of wrestling with God and with myself, and had a lot of dark nights of the soul. And I was still in Los Angeles, which is a really tough place. Like, especially if you've been there a long time and you're sort of like kind of surrounded by the ideologies of Hollywood, and just like, the just the place,
Mhm.
Um, and a good friend of mine, Joe Rogan, called me and was like, it was like the middle of 2020, and he had just moved to Austin, and he was like just trying to bring all his friends, and it was a really powerful conversation. I was very grateful um to have it had such an impact on me. We talked for 2 hours, and he told me, basically like, why are you there? Like, what's keeping you there? And you have this idea about the industry in music of like, this is where you have to be. This is where it can happen,
Mhm.
whatever you think the rules apply, And my first thought was, I don't want to move to Austin. It's too hot.
Yeah,
It's too
fair.
hot there. Um, but also like LA was getting so scary. I was chasing vagrants out of my yard every day. They were stealing things, and like there were riots, and I was genuinely scared. And a few things happened. I woke up in a lot of ways, wink, to get my life in order, but also like out of the noise of that place, of their
Mhm.
politics, of their taxes, of everything. And I just bet on myself, and I moved to Austin, and Joe and Gary were, and other than these two really good friends of mine that I've known for 10 years, were the only people I knew. And
Wow.
so like, I mean, I came in like full on, like brand new. Like I didn't have any like social circle to hang on to, or, and I'm not going to call like Mr. and Mrs. Rogan to hang out all the time. Like, we're friends, but not like that kind of friend.
Right.
So I I just got here. I moved here the week of the freeze in 2021, which was
See.
wild. Like, and I kept thinking like, did I make a huge mistake? Like it was a mess. Like, but um like I said, I'd spent the whole year like sitting with myself and praying, and like finding, di- like really naming what I wanted, for my life and the rest of my time on earth. And I think there was some relevance to that because 3 weeks after I got here, I met my husband.
Wow.
It was like nothing I've ever experienced in my whole life, like lightning striking. And I mean, he is the love of my life. And we got engaged 9 months later, and then married in 2022. And I have a stepdaughter who is my first daughter. And then we had a baby girl this past, or in 2023 in October. And like the fucking best. Like I couldn't, I couldn't have asked for like a better blessing in my life. And just um like I am eternally grateful to Joe, and his enthusiasm to bring me here, because clearly it was for a greater purpose. And then, music is great too. That stuff is like the thing about what's happening, I think, for artists like ourselves, right, is we're trying something new and we're breaking out of this old routine and an old structure that doesn't work. And so like that kind of applies to my entire life right now, like just the way I think it comes down to values, not to like, honk honk value for value, but it's true. Like what do you value? And if you value art and you want to support the artist, like this is a great direction for it to go in. And to that end, I'm going to hand it over to you, because I don't really know how this works, but I'm so excited to be diving in and figuring it out with these great people like yourself and Adam Curry. And yeah, it's like I'm just like, again, like taking a chance on something and seeing how this goes. But so far I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah, it's early and it's incredible. And we have new people hopping into the V4V and Valueverse space like on a weekly basis now, like daily. Like Theo from Wolfpack just came and like rocked out with a tune. Yeah, and like a bunch of other people.
I know Theo. I haven't seen him in ages.
So it's incredible that like
That's awesome.
Some of these relationships are more real than the rest of the internet. Does that make sense? Like that was my impression when I went to Nashville and met a lot of the people, musicians, as well as the builders in the space. Like I was coming from the world of podcasting primarily. I've been a musician for a long time, but as far as like releasing music, touring, and trying to like squeeze money out of the music thing, it's like I kind of moved over to the podcasting and media side. Now that those worlds are like meeting up, like I'm so excited about the direction that things could go in if enough people hop on board and kind of like adopt this different way of thinking about music that gives both the artist and the listener a lot more control over their situation. Because like how much of a bummer is it that we came from a place where we had these incredible like musical libraries back in the day of records, of tapes, of CDs that were generally like your favorites or something that a friend had gifted you, or like you had met the artist at some point or gone to a concert, whatever it was. And now it's like, if you don't pay Spotify or Apple 10 to 20 bucks a month for the rest of your life, you lose all of your favorite music and your connection with that whole thing. And so,
well, but also I think it's desensitizing people too. And I'll just speak for myself. Like you definitely don't value things you don't pay for as much as the ones you do pay for. And so like, I'm kind of overwhelmed with the structure of Spotify, with the way music is introduced. And there's something sort of like, I don't think it's made me cynical, but it's made me like disinterested in a lot of new music and artists that I would normally want to follow and things like that. And I just, I think in general, like even film and television, like trying to find a good show is like a needle in a haystack these days, right?
In a sea of mediocrity, it's just like
exactly. Blah. And it's like, I mean, half of it's probably written by AI. It's totally soulless, and it's like it's not relatable, So to that end, it's like I don't think I'm alone in that quest for wanting genuine life experiences and like I want to watch genuinely good content and listen to genuinely good music. And, I think there's a return to it. That's why I'm so excited about this platform, is I'm hoping that other people want this too, you know? And it's not like you have to like lose your ass spending money on it. It's like, it's just sort of investing into things that you care about,
Yeah. And then from the artist side, it's an incredible opportunity to actually interact with the people who love your music. Like it's weird, but on Apple or on Spotify, if someone loves one of your songs, like they can't really send you a note about it through Apple or like leave a message or a comment or share it with a friend easily or whatever it is. And these newer systems allow you to do just that. And one of my favorite things about like figuring out this whole space, because I was new to it just a few months ago, like I uploaded my album in June. So like I was trying to figure it out. Yeah. And it was just like, it kind of gathered its own power, because what happened was basically like without putting any promotion behind it, which is typically what you have to do as a musician. You put out music, but mostly you just need to like market the heck out of it. When I uploaded it to Wave, like it took on its own life because other DJs who had podcasts are just like, oh, there's a new song here. Oh, I kind of like this. I'm putting it on my show. Yeah. And then someone else hears it, puts it on their show. And it's like, man, this is how music used to work. Like we're back, baby. Like this is incredible. And
and then you look to those like DJs because you value their influence and
yes,
their taste. So you're like, oh man, what's new? Remember when like, do you remember when like the 90s or I'm not sure how old you are, but like when you heard a new band and it was like you claimed it, and so
totally
you wanted like have you guys heard of Zebrahead? I was kind of like the punk vibe for a little while, that kind of thing. It was exciting to be the one that told people about music, that like the indie side of things. But yeah, that's so cool. I love the return to that. I think it's fantastic.
And now the incentives are aligned as well, such that for a DJ or a podcaster, they are rewarded for finding new artists and breaking them, or finding great old tunes and just like pointing people toward them. And musicians are at least potentially rewarded for putting out music that resonates with their audience, as opposed to just kind of like putting it out on Apple or Spotify, where there's not a whole lot of interactivity. You just kind of upload it and then hope for the best, or hope that some big algorithm catches it, or some big playlist or something like that.
But like stuff's not real. Like all the labels own the playlists.
Yes.
It's payola like it always was. And even then, like, okay, so my solo record I did with Butch. I'm not going to say who, but there was a record company that approached me with a 5-album deal. And it was terrible. And there was like no advance, but they owned half my publishing. They would have. And all the masters. So, but it was like, we're going to pick you. And I'll tell you, I know someone who took that deal, and she's quite well known, but she has no money. And she's owned, and she's always on the road, and she's very talented. And she took that deal, and like so I'm not sure how good that exchange is. If you wanted the fame, you got it. Mm-hmm. If that's what success means to you, then you got it. But you don't own your own music, and you're not making that much money, and that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow, in my opinion. And I think I'd rather just like kind of figure it out on my own, and like, it's kind of like the mob. It's just like, it's very interesting. And I'm not saying that if I took that deal, I'd be at the top, like who knows, but it was just, it felt so wrong in my guts to be presented that. And like, I just couldn't do it. It wasn't right to me. Especially when I've invested in my record myself, and they weren't even going to pay me for it. They were just going to be like, we're going to take this, and then you just keep making music.
And we own that too. It's like they own your future. That's the gnarliest thing to imagine for me. Like as a creator, like it's hard enough most of the time to create songs on your own accord, like through your own power. If someone is forcing you to do it, or telling you must do it this way, or no, I know you love that song and it means so much to you, but you can't put that one on the record. It's like, oh, right. Man.
No, I know that's painful stuff. And like, yeah, that's another thing. Your artistic integrity. But like, again, like tip of the hat to like, pioneering and being part of the wagons that are headed into this new territory. Because like, at any point, I've got a whole record that I'm so excited about. And, one of the songs is Worried that you have.
Yeah.
But like, I can throw that into the void of Spotify anytime I want. But I'm just like, I'd rather start, panning for gold here and figuring out a different way. It's just like,
It's worth it. And it's fun to play. It's fun to be early. Like, who knows if this will work, but having a bunch of kind of like smart, motivated optimists together in this sort of situation feels like the right thing to do.
Adam Curry at the helm.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody to listen to.
I think we'll do all right. But I did want to ask you, I mean, speaking of like being on tour and the musician's lifestyle, but wanting a family and wanting to be able to like have some sort of predictability in the way that you're living, whether it's financial or just like being in the same space for a minute, the same location, and not being forced to travel. What was it like? I saw some videos of you performing very pregnant, it looked like. First of all, how is that even possible? What was that
It was
like?
awesome. It was so fun. It was kind of like my last hurrah, to be honest with you, because like unless it's really worth it, and it's either my friends, like I did a really cool tour with Gary Clark this past August, and I brought my baby, and it was
Wow.
really like it really worked. Like I got to have Rosie with me and play and watch one of my dear friends play, and I love Gary. You know, we've been friends a long time.
He's amazing.
But you know, when I was pregnant, I was so full of joy and excitement, and you know, I guess in retrospect it might have been a little crazy, but like I'll be honest with you. I was talking about this with somebody yesterday because I played in Colorado, like it was like September 1st, and my doctor was like, you need to be home September 1st. And I was like, well, what about September 2nd? I didn't make a deal, you know, and I was very pregnant, and I was at like super high altitude, but for some reason it was like the best I'd ever sang. Like I had full lung capacity. I don't know. I think it was like supernatural baby power or
Yeah.
something. But that was unforgettable. I mean, that was like one of the most beautiful weeks of my life. And then, you know, I got to have this just like sparkle child. But yeah, I mean, it's our industry is not set up for mothers, you
Right.
know. And I don't know, like I my heart goes out to people that have to be separated from their families for work. You know, we're at a point where my husband's in entertainment. You know, he's a writer director. He's very talented, and you know, we've actually worked together this past year, and that was really fun. I got to do some music on one of his films. It was an honor, and he actually put me in the movie, so I did some
Cool.
acting as well.
Nice.
Small role, but it was a blast. But you know, our I mean, much like what you're doing with your podcasting and with music and working with value for value and like just going into this new territory. I'm a firm believer in like your own design, you know, and so what we want to do is work together. We also want to start our own podcast. Like we've done a couple, my husband and I, like we've done a couple rounds, and it was really fun. We're still kind of honing in on a formula for it, or form rather, so it like makes sense to people. But we just like we spent so long, you know, the majority of our lives not together, and you know, it doesn't make sense to be apart. Like if I were like filling up stadiums, we'd have to have a different discussion, but I'm not, you know, and you can make music from home and you can put music out. And, you know, in terms of touring, I guess I'm just really fortunate that, you know, my husband can provide for us, that like, I don't have to go out. And again, like my heart goes out for people, and women especially, that, that have to deal with that structure of like either being very difficult bringing your children, you have to bring childcare and that's expensive, or you're away from them, you know.
Mhm.
um yeah, it's you know, it's not really set up with daycare.
Yeah.
So um but you know, again, like I'm very fortunate that we can I don't have to do it, you know. Of course I have that like part of me that feels like you're supposed to, like you're like, oh, I got to get out there and like keep building and building. But I think that's an old program that I need to reassess.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, like, what is your definition of success in music, especially now that you do have a family? It's a moving target, right?
Well, my definition is that and is that I'm making music that I'm really proud of, that feels relevant to be shared,
Hmm.
and I get to have this life with my family, and it's so full. And you know, playing every once in a while where I get to like get the fire out and get on a stage. And that is like where I do my best work. I'm a live performer through and through, and it's really fun. And I love to share, my soul with people like that, in that way rather. But and that's success to me, and if like I had some song that like went slingshot into the universe, that's so cool. But the thing that I feel is the biggest success that I have now is that I don't care about that anymore. And it doesn't hurt anymore. Like it used to just hurt so much, like seeing my Spotify quarterlies and just being like, I'd get a lot of plays, like there's like 40,000 spins on this song and I made $6, and that would hurt so much. Like you're like, oh, this is just an act of service now. Like, okay. And then you sort of start to think like, like Jesus or something. Like, this is just like, we're just doing the Lord's work here. Like, this is just, I'm just throwing it out there.
But it's like one of those things that you kind of have to do anyway, right? Like I would assume that you can't stop playing music, even if you stop touring and doing that whole thing, or pursuing it in a certain way. At least for me, I've tried stopping a few times and I can't. It's one of those things that just needs to keep.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the magical part,
Yeah.
And I think that like whatever like mainstream success is out there, to me, it's very rare that I'm really moved by one of those artists. And that's not because I have a chip on my shoulder. It's just because my instincts are like not moved. I mean, I'm just like, if someone isn't singing from that place, that like God place or whatever you want to call it, or the other thing that is like channeled through you, it's probably part of an agenda. It's probably part of the, whatever record company, archetype you're fulfilling for their, platforms. And like, yeah, it gets old, whatever's trending. And like, and I was in LA and I like did for a very short time, like stepped into like top lining writing, for pop music, because I was just trying to make money. And it was like so soul crushing because, they have these big forums where there's like thousands of music producers and they're chasing after trending BPMs, trending melodies and chord changes. And they're like racing toward it. And it's so weird.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I guess if that's how you want to do it, that's cool, but that's just not how I want to do it.
And you can tell.
Best of luck.
Yeah, best of luck. But at least when I've seen, and I've never seen you play live, I'm really looking forward to it. But from what I've seen, there's this like visceral nature to what you're doing. You're like riding the edge. It seems controlled, but could go out of control at any moment, whether it's, vocals or guitar. And very, very few artists perform in that space. How do you think you're able to get there when so many other people are buttoned up or trying to be something that they're not, or just like not really there?
I'm not really sure, because I've kind of always been this way. So like, let me put it this way. I've never released music that I needed someone to tell me like it was good. It was just like, I knew it was. And even if someone else doesn't think it is, I do.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything, but I wasn't looking for that kind of validation outside. And I think that it's so hard. Like, I don't know, singing and performing have just always come from this very specific place. And it's like a language, that I guess, I'm not trying to like sound like I'm up my own butt here. Like, it just has been fluent for me for a long time. And I guess it's a vulnerability. I guess it's a capacity to just share so openly. And then like off the stage, that gets me in trouble because like in the past, like I'm like, oh, I'm learning, oh, you shouldn't be friends with this person. Like you shouldn't let everyone into your life. Okay, got it. Like,
Yeah.
boundaries. But, on stage, there aren't really boundaries like that. Like you just put it all out there. And sometimes it's really really draining actually, because you come back from that and you're like um a little shaken up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like it depends on what people want when they get up there or don't want, or like it's kind of up to you as an artist to be like, what are you doing here?
Hmm.
And I can't answer that for other people, but I guess for myself, it's like I was given something. Like music always came to me in this way, and I think it's meant to be shared. Um, and I enjoy the closeness of it because it feels like love to me. It feels like moments of our humanity that bring a collective um, joy or healing or togetherness that has always been really cool to me. One of my favorite shows or types of shows that I've played over many, many years are when I get hired to play a town series. Like small towns will have like, oh, these are our Thursday night music night, and they'll like
Yeah.
bring in an artist that nobody's heard of. And I would be that artist, or, HoneyHoney did a lot of those things. And so you play in these towns, there'd just be like all walks of life and demographics and like everybody's just there for the free beer,
Yeah.
but you can see them having a great time. And so to me, that's the thing that you're supposed to be doing. Like, oh, that like I got to entertain these people, and whatever your life is like outside of this moment, I hope this brought you a boost or some joy, or maybe you needed to fucking cry because I have a lot of sad songs. And so that's the purpose.
What about staying skilled in multiple instruments and keeping your voice healthy, especially on the road? How do you manage to do that, or do you kind of treat it in seasons?
That's a really good question. I treat it in seasons, especially now that I'm a mom. Like, I mean, I used to try to practice every day, and I'd be like, Mondays are guitar, Tuesdays are violin, and like I could maybe stick with that for a short time, but life happens, and string instruments to me are kind of synonymous because like your muscle memory just kicks in. The violin is definitely the hardest. Like I haven't played my violin in like a month and a half. And when I pick it up next, like I should be alone in this house. Like no one needs, like it takes a minute. It's a
Yeah.
sensitive instrument. It's, there's no frets on it. It's sensitive to temperature and, even just my own physical tension.
Hmm.
So, like I have to practice that one a little more. But caring for your voice is uh, something I just got really good at over the years. And especially when I was in Hozier's band, because I have never sang that much in my entire life. And we would sing sometimes from like 6 in the morning to like you do like 2 promo or radio, and then you play a whole show. And I am so grateful to the like boot camp I went through in that band I was a better guitar player after that. I like to say that I wasn't a real guitar player until after that band. I probably didn't play as well. Sorry, Hozier. Uh, but like I learned so much, and I learned so much as a singer, just technique, and like I said earlier, I mean, I love to have a cocktail like everybody else, but when it's the time is right, and like, you can't, especially if you're a lead singer, like you can't keep up with the boys or whatever if you want to sound good. And I care so much about my voice. I've taken speech therapy to learn how to speak properly, and I'm probably vocal frying right now because I'm tired, but just being aware of how like just the mechanics,
Hmm.
that makes a big difference, just like you would like learning the blues or something, or like versus classical. It's like, what are you doing with this thing? How does this work? But I mean, it's kind of like anything, like you take good care of your body in general, like be healthy.
Well, how did you achieve that just generally, staying healthy on the road. You already talked about, like, thankfully that substances weren't an issue, which oftentimes is, the thing that can really be catastrophic for people. But as well, I mean, you have to go long periods skipping meals, having only the wrong food around, or just like existing on no sleep, overperforming, like getting burnt out. So how do you keep it together, in especially in the face of so much uncertainty on the road?
Well, it is certainly a young person's game.
Yeah.
Judging from this last week on the road, I am so tired, and I'm like, damn, it's not like I used to be,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with that. Over the years, like, it used to be really, really hard. And then they started, like, there's more Whole Foods in the country. And so, like, if you've toured through the US enough, like, you kind of know where your stops are. And, like, if you're driving through certain parts of Texas for the next 6 hours, there's no food. And so you have to plan in the morning and like, get your food for the day. And I started bringing a cooler, and, like, but you do suffer. Like, you're exhausted. Unfortunately, I would, when I would really, really tour, I would usually lose a lot of weight in not the right ways, just because, like, I don't know. I would eat a lot, but you're just moving.
At weird times. Yeah.
At weird times. Yeah. I actually always was really good about not eating late, because I get acid reflux and that ruins your vocal cords.
Mhm.
So what I would do was I would eat like a lumberjack breakfast, like the whole thing, and usually a big lunch, and then kind of like the rest of the day was snacks and then nothing. Because I never really like, you don't want to eat a huge meal before you play. But yeah, it's really hard, especially now that, like, if you want to get into seed oils and all that stuff, like,
Yeah.
you are stuck.
Oh, we're deep in the seed oils. Yeah.
Where I'm deep in it too. And, like, I'm going to be 40 next month, and I have never felt healthier than I do now. Like, we eat so well in our house. We have good water. We, cook our food most nights, and it's a blessing, and, like, just from the last week on the road, like, I've eaten so much shit that I don't normally eat, and I feel it, like,
Mhm.
like, in my skin, and, like, I'm not going to complain, but it is hard. It's difficult to stay healthy on the road.
Yeah.
But it's not like, I toured with this guy, Joshua James, who's, like, really talented and a very interesting character. And, like, he had his own van, and he had this whole setup where he was, like, making his own hummus, and, like, he'd bring his chickpeas and make his own hummus. Like, he just had a whole science, and you can do that too, but I wasn't that organized.
But it was a priority. You realized that,
Yes.
you wouldn't survive otherwise.
That when you're in a van, it's very difficult. If you're on a bus, you can do so much. I mean,
Yeah.
when I only did a couple bus tours, like, with Butch, and then with Hozier, we were always on buses. And so, like, you could have avocados and things, and it was just, like, really wake up and make your own coffee. And that was actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, I hear that. I know you got to run in a minute, but I do have to ask you about the social media becoming a requirement thing, especially TikTok for musicians. Maybe you can just rant on that real quick.
Sure, yeah. I fucking hate it. I don't do TikTok. I actually recently just deleted all my social media and then post when I have music stuff going on. But I've decided I might need somebody to help me, like, rebrand the whole thing, but I'm not going to really, like, post about my family as much. I truly want a return to my own genuine life experiences. And, I'm fortunate enough that, like, I can do that. However, I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible that you have to do all these things to keep yourself relevant, and you can't just be a musician. It's one. I used to love, like making, like, skits and sketches, and like, it would come naturally because it was fun to do
Mhm.
that. And if I feel called to do it, I will, and I'll just be like, putting something out there that's funny, or, like, if I want to play a song, it always comes from a place of like, oh, I just want to do this. I want to sing for people, and I hope you enjoy this video. But, it's like working for free again, and it's not. I think it gets dark really fast because it's really easy to become self-obsessed when you're always looking at yourself and
Mhm.
your validation, and I think it needs to stop. I think it's really bad for young girls, especially, and I resent it wholeheartedly. And I would much rather spend time with my friends and loved ones in real time. And if that makes me out of the loop, or I lose work, or admiration, so be it. I think it's really, really bad for people. And I've seen what it's done to me. And it was a few months ago, when all the stuff was happening in the Carolinas after the hurricane, and I was becoming obsessed with it, and I was on X, and I was angry, and my husband and I were having all these weird fights, and one day he just stopped me, and he said, "I think you're going crazy, and I think you need to turn this off. I love you. This is not you." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I turned off, I deleted everything that night. I mean, I didn't like shut my accounts down. I just took it off my phone. But then I realized how much I was looking at my phone, like getting up to pee at 3 in the morning. I was bringing my phone to the bathroom to look at it and then go back to bed. And even just within the 24 hours of canceling everything, I was just so aware of how often I picked it up, and it made me really sad. But then I got my power back. So, my heart breaks for people that have to do it. I also think there are people that can do it for you, and you can work with them and maybe like give that job to them, and try to live as present a life as you can, because life is so short, and like machine time just makes it fly by, you know?
Yeah,
It's
you
not
were so
cool.
right about that. Well,
Make it into a
awesome. Thank you
river.
so much for yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to spend some time with us here today, Suzanne. What is the best place for people to find your music and anything else that you have coming out?
Well, it's on Spotify, but my new music will be coming out on Fountain. And I'm around. I have a website, SuzanneSanto.com. I do have social media that I post on from time to time, Instagram and Twitter, and that's it. Oh, Facebook, I guess, but
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Well, awesome. So excited to rock out with you at Antone's in just a few weeks. Thanks so much again.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode with Suzanne Santo. If you have a minute, stick around. We're going to be playing one of Suzanne's original tunes called Worried, and we hope you like it. Don't forget, if you're using a modern podcasting app, to boost in or send us a boostergram with your message. We always love hearing from you. And all these boosts are shared directly with the artists. On that note, I hope you enjoyed this original tune from Suzanne Santo called Worried.